Do you remember the CGI kids show called Chuggington? If you're American, you've probably seen some of it on Playhouse Disney, and later possibly Disney Junior. To put its premise simply, it's a show about trains who work in, of course, a town called Chuggington, similar to that of Thomas the Tank Engine. The show also focuses primarily on 3 young trains who are named Coco, Brewster, and Wilson, who often solve problems and get into adventures while doing railroad-related tasks and training. I used to watch that show frequently as a kid, and I thought it was alright. But one event I've had in my life that wasn't too long ago was rather a bizarre event I had with the show, that had to do with a lost episode. Be me, 17, a scrawny teenager who still eats Lunchables and has a number of bizarre kinks. Don't ever look into the favorites of my DeviantArt account. School on Friday had been over, and on the way home, my dad and I decided to visit the used video store we usually like to go to because of our love for home media. When I was there, I was trying to look for season 4 of George Lopez on DVD until I stumbled upon something I found a bit odd. What I found was a laserdisc. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a DVD the size of a vinyl record. I think it was pretty popular in Asian countries, but was only semi-successful in the US. When I took a closer look at it, I saw the title which read, Chuggington Special Episode. I was very confused by this because there is a 0% chance that Chuggington of all things would ever be released on a media format that's probably been discontinued entirely for ages now. I went up to the cash register where the owner of the store usually is, doing the registry himself, and then I asked him where he got this laserdisc. He told me that he found it inside an abandoned boxcar that was at a heritage railroad he took his son to enjoy. That is a pretty odd choice to put gift shop merchandise at a place like that, but nevertheless, me and my dad decided to buy it anyway. Because while we did have a laserdisc player, we didn't have any titles to use it for. Not to mention, I was really curious about how a show like Chuggington could appear on a laserdisc. Oh, how that was such a big mistake. When we got back home, I went on to take the laserdisc up to my room where I had most of my collection of home media and other related devices. I was still a little skeptical about why in the hell I am holding a laserdisc of something to do with Chuggington, but was still very interested in seeing what we'd be seeing on this disc. Could something just pretty normal be on it, or something just completely bizarre? I mean, I have a friend who once claimed that he had a Supernatural Bob the Builder DVD to do with the Scarecrow, but I have my doubts on if that was actually legit or not. Anyway, I finally got the chance to use the laserdisc player I got a few years ago and inserted the Chuggington laserdisc into the player. Then I got comfy by getting some of my previously mentioned Lunchables to eat and a can of Arizona half and half to drink. I had no idea what I was in for what I was going to watch, but I did have a feeling that I could be half satisfied with this. When the laserdisc started playing, it immediately jump cut to the intro rather than a series of promos and a piracy warning. When the intro was playing, it looked mostly the same as what I remembered the intro to Chuggington looked like. Except what was rather odd was that many times the trains in the backgrounds, except Brewster, Coco, and Wilson, were constantly crashing into each other while pedestrians and other rail workers were doing various silly dances, one of which being Gundam style. The singing was also very different. Instead of a couple of kids singing the lyrics, it was more of a group of grown Indian men alongside a voice that sounded very similar to Hank Hill singing the theme song. Not to mention that various explosions were happening in the background for no apparent reason. Then at one point before the intro ended, I heard some random noise that went Baba Booey 4 times in a row, which each time of it playing at a different speed and pitch, and the intro abruptly ended. The episode finally started playing. It began with an overshot view of Chuggington and its rail yards, then it cut to the character Wilson speeding down the tracks to see that weird traffic light thing with the voice of a woman.
Ah, hello Wilson. I have a very special job for you today. What is it, V? Wilson replied. Today you will be picking up 2 very important passengers who are going to fix something for a person at a very special place.
Wilson appeared to be very excited about this.
Oh, awesome! Let's ride the rails!
But then V said,
But I'm not even coming with you. Don't you dare question my household catchphrase!
Wilson snapped back. That's kind of weird. I wouldn't expect that kind of dialogue to be in something for little kids. But regardless, I continued watching as Wilson left the station to pick up the 2 passengers at the other one. When it then came to a scene where Wilson had now arrived at the station where his 2 passengers would gas, I was very surprised to see who exactly those 2 passengers were. It was Shrek and Adam Sandler! What the hell are they doing in this? Because for one, Shrek isn't even owned by Disney, since that was one of the companies that promoted Chuggington on television, not to mention the first Shrek film made fun of a lot of things Disney was known for. And I don't think Adam Sandler had ever been in anything associated with Disney at all. Or maybe that's only because his genius comedy was too good for it. When Wilson made contact with his 2 ridiculous passengers, Shrek was the first one to say hello.
Hello there, laddie,
He said.
Hey, Shrek, how's it going?
Wilson replied.
Today, me and my good friend Adam Sandler are going to fix somebody's VCR. Luckily for him, we are licensed VCR repairmen.
Shrek and Adam Sandler are VCR repairmen?
Since when was that ever established? We'll give him free copies of 8 Crazy Nights and click on VHS too,
Adam Sandler added. This was getting really weird. Not only were Shrek and Adam Sandler VCR repairmen, but I don't think the movie Click was ever released on VHS, because I believe the VHS was discontinued in 2006, which was way before Chuggington aired.
Oh, how exciting!
Wilson added. And then Shrek and Adam Sandler boarded Wilson's passenger car and set off to meet whoever was needing his VCR to be repaired. By then, things would get even more confusing and insane. As they moved on throughout the countryside, they were starting to get closer to a level crossing. As the camera then focused on the level crossing, I saw a car. The 2 characters that I was surprised to see, but also hated to see, were the Nostalgia Critic and Isabelle from Animal Crossing. I hate Nostalgia Critic because he voiced disbelief in my most favorite movie ever, the live-action Inspector Gadget movie, and I hate Isabelle because she is an embarrassment of Nintendo's products.
Ugh, I hate waiting for the train, the critic said.
So do I,
replied Isabelle. So then they decided to beat the train, which of course in this case was Wilson. Just as when the crossing gates were about to close in, just when Critic and Isabelle were on the crossing itself, before they do it, Wilson darted through the crossing and crashed into the car with extreme magnitude. Me, Shrek, and Adam Sandler all heard the screaming from the 2 stupid characters as they pushed through.
the train always wins, idiots.
Wilson remarked, and then Shrek said,
They should have checked themselves before they Shrek themselves.
and they laughed as they continued on. Despite the bizarre nature of what I've been seeing of this episode, starting from that scene, I was beginning to enjoy what I was watching. So after a run-in with the Penguins of Madagascar, a quick stop at Long John Silver's, and almost crashing into a Costco store, at long last, they finally arrived at their destination.
Here we are, Shrek and Adam Sandler,
Said Wilson.
Thank you, Wilson. Thank you, Wilson.
They both said. By this point, we find out who needed to have its VCR repaired by Wilson's 2 passengers. As Shrek and Adam Sandler came to the house and rang the doorbell, I was absolutely shocked by who exactly opened the door.
It was George Lopez! Hola, Shrek and Adam Sandler,
George greeted.
Hello, George Lopez. Hello, George Lopez.
They both said. Oh, what a coincidence, because I was trying to find a copy of George Lopez Season 4 on DVD earlier.
Good thing you 2 are here to fix my VCR. Let's get to work.
Then after that, it cuts to a montage that's like all the George Lopez intros, with all the main characters jumping in the air while Low Rider was playing. Except now it was George Lopez, Shrek, Adam Sandler, and even Wilson for some reason were all now jumping in the air instead, while the song was playing. And so after that, the Inspector Gadget movie played really fast and irate 20 times in a row, both normal and reverse, until everything within the episode just exploded like a YouTube poo. Wow. Me and my dad paid $25 for this?
Totally worth it!